everyone. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Talene, Kaylee. Oh, lots of consultants on tonight and lots of customers too. Great to have you guys. Hello, Ilham, Therese.
Hi.
Welcome to our inspired class for the month. We're excited about this theme, and you've got lots of knowledgeable presenters on tonight. So looking forward to sharing our knowledge and passion for healthy eating in the Thermomix with you. Tonight, our theme is Gut Health Edition, and we've got Louise kicking us off. Then we've got Sally, Anna, and Jeremy, and they'll all be sharing some of the gut health food that they're passionate about. And we'll also share some of our personal favorites for, different cooks and books that we read. All right, welcome to use the chat. I will be monitoring that all night long. Lucky me, I don't have to cook tonight. And so over to our wonderful team. Louise, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, beautiful. You're up.
Today we're making the beetroot soup, which is a really good source of probiotics. It has beneficial bacteria, and we'll just get started. We'll get back to that. You can use two different kinds of carrots. You can either use orange carrots or purple carrots. They have two different sorts of antioxidants in them. This one has beta carotene, and the other one, the purple, has antioxidants. Now I can't get this to work. Ooh. The first thing we have to do is we're going to mill cashews. Cashews is a really good ingredient as well. I'm sorry, it's taking a bit of time. Okay, so we have 70 grams of cashews. They're dry roasted ones, so we mill them. See how lovely they've milled up. So we put that aside for later. So the next step is we have 180 grams of onions, 100 grams of carrots, 50 grams of celery, and we blend that for 5 seconds. Scrape down the sides.
So this recipe Louise is doing, show us, Louise.
I'll show you how nice it looks. Yeah.
Lovely. We once did this in a big national cook along with all of the consultants across Australia and New Zealand she used to be our managing director, Grace Messier. And so that's where I first discovered this recipe. And ever since I've continued to make it because it's super, super delicious.
It's really good. I make it and take it for lunch. It's fast to eat. You can even eat it cold.
Yeah, I agree. You can eat it cold.
So that just goes on now. We've got 40 grams of olive oil in there now. Now that cooks for 7 minutes.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Louise. So what we'll do is we'll go over to Sally and we'll come back to you in 7 minutes. How's that sound?
Great.
Hi everyone, welcome to this gut health class. I am Sally and I'm right down on the far south coast in Merimbula. And when I first joined Thermomix as a consultant now 9 years ago, and now a team leader, I'd come from a nutrition course, and the one sort of topic that drew to me, which made so much sense, was all about the gut health and the microbiome. So it's been one of my whys, and I really do enjoy both at home making the recipes, but I also enjoy sharing them in small workshops as well. So today I am showing and sharing about sauerkraut. Again, I was saying at the beginning, there actually are a fair different few recipes of sauerkraut. There's even a miso kraut on the Eat Well book, which is absolutely delicious. But today I just thought I'd start with the basics and just do the simple sauerkraut recipe. There's a couple of them in Cookie Dough, and I decided to use the one from the fermentation with TM6. Because it uses the sauerkraut and the fermentation mode. So it's another mode which we can all learn a lot from as well. So let's start cooking. Now this has got a few steps to it, so I think I'll be switching as we go with Claire while it rests. Okay, let's start cooking. So the first, all we've got basically for the recipe is cabbage and salt and some spices which help with the preserving of a ferment. So basically the first tip is always to use kind of like clean tools. And so I have already, which I always use my Varoma, I've sort of steamed some jars, which were done earlier as well. Okay, so we basically, the first step, now I have prepared quite a bit of the cabbage already, so I'm just going to explain how it first works along. I've just got my cabbage here. So first of all, the first step is to just take off some of the leaves. The reason I'm doing that is later down the track, they will be kept to sort of plug the cabbage into the jar. I'll just take a couple of those leaves off.
Sally, what happens if you don't sterilize the equipment?
Then, very good question, Claire. What we're looking for is to sort of ferment the good bacteria, and this is a lacto ferment. If we didn't have a sterilized, I call it little kind of planet or incubator itself, the bad bugs or the bugs that are not so good for you can grow, and you'll learn how you can see that, but this will prevent all that. And I think a lot of people are a little bit scared of fermenting for that very reason. So yes, so you want to keep clean, everything all good as well. So basically the first step too, I'll just move everyone's faces so I can see that you can see everything, is basically to first of all just sort of take the core out of the cabbage. I'll just pop aside, and then it's about basically taking the stalk out, which there isn't much stalk in this. I've bought sort of a good event, and basically just cutting it into small pieces. Now I've already prepared a bit, but what I'm looking for is pieces around just sort of little squares like so. So I'll just put that into the bowl I've started already. Just do a little bit more because I've already pre-weighed the majority of it.
And Sally, would you ever use the cutter to slice it up for sauerkraut?
Very good question. Yes, there is actually a kraut cutter recipe. You know what? It actually takes a little bit more time to get that through the cutter, but the slicing of the result is very fine and lovely as well. I just choose to do things quite fast-paced, and so this to me is the more shortcut, I suppose. So first of all, we're going to put half the cabbage pieces into our bowl. Grab hold of them. And the reason is it's that maximum efficiency of putting the cabbage in. And I'm just going to pop on the measuring cup. And all it is then is 3 seconds speed 5. Now, if I was doing the cutter, it would just take a little bit longer than that to feed it through. But as I mentioned, you can always try that. Of course, the traditional way is, and that's how I first learned, was just slicing your cabbage into big bowls as well. So you can do that by hand. But I love that this makes it so much easier. Even so that I'm going to show a couple more tips as well. So it does say transfer to a large bowl. I'm just going to keep going and use my second bowl. So that's my sort of texture of the cabbage. Okay, let's just pop in here the rest of the cabbage. Goes in the second bowl, which I find really handy. Again, that's the efficiency of chopping. And again, same again. So what we're going to do next, it basically has to transfer to a bowl with 2 teaspoons of salt. So it's called a dry salt method, this one, because the salt's going to draw the juices out of the cabbage before the sort of pounding and kneading. So, and that's really going to stay and sit for 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is put the 2 bowls together. This is my little hack as well. So I do make this fair amount of times. Got a jar in the fridge. So everything goes in there. The salt goes in there as well. And even though it's got rest for 30 minutes, I'm just going to show you the hack. So basically I'll set it for around 2 minutes. I'm going to put it on reverse and speed 2 and have a look. So that's going to help pound and start mixing the cabbage without any extra mixing. And then when it finishes, it will then rest for that time. Back to the bookmark. It'll go back to resting time for that 20-30 minutes time. Again, I can flow with how we go with the rest of the recipes. It's quite simple, the next step as well.
So do you do the sort of beating with the Thermomix to speed up the sitting time, or you do it in addition to?
I do it in addition time because it will mix through the salt now through the whole of the cabbage, and then I'll let it just sit and rest, draw out the juices. Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right. So are we coming back to you later, Sally?
Yes, come back to it. I'll fit in later when we've let it sit and rested for a little while.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Louise, how are you going? How much time you got left?
I'm just finished.
Excellent. Perfect timing. And you've just jumped off my screen. So let me find you now. Where did you go?
We're up to adding the beetroot. So we have 600 grams of beetroot, trimmed and washed. That all goes in. Then we have 1 apple with the peel left on and cut into quarters. Then we chop this up as well, just for 10 seconds.
So this recipe is in the Nourish Your Gut one with Louise Keats collection from the Australian platform, Australian New Zealand Cookie Do platform.
Okay. So now we have 550 grams of chicken. It's the bone broth. I made the bone broth earlier. It's got a lot of really good things about it. It's got collagen and pectin and all sorts of things in it. I can't remember the rest. Anyway, so that's what goes next. And that cooks for 20 minutes. Okay.
It looks like a beautiful gelatinous bone broth you had there. What did you put in your bone broth, Louise?
I've got all the ingredients right here, so I can have a look. We've got turmeric, which looks a bit like ginger.
Oh, did you put fresh turmeric in your bone broth? Excellent.
Yeah, fresh turmeric. It's got ginger, onions, carrots, a bay leaf, celery. Sorry, you can't see my thing because I've got it all sorted. Salt and 10 whole peppercorns and 8 chicken wings. About whatever you can fit in the bowl.
And so you did all that in your Thermomix bowl?
I did the whole thing. I'll put it on after so you can see how it fits in the bowl, and then you cook it for an hour and a half, and then you strain it and you discard you've used all the veggies in it. It blends them up a bit so you really get the nutrition through.
Yeah.
Then I froze some. I put it in lots for the soup, and I put it in the freezer. And actually, the recipe said that you could drink it just like that. And you know what? It tastes really lovely. It tastes like packet chicken noodle soup without any noodles. It's just really, really nice. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's good.
Sounds amazing. All right. Well, we'll come back to you later and you can show us the rest of the broth that you've made. For now, we're going to bring Jeremy in. So Jeremy, get ready. Going to put you on camera. And we'll see you soon, Louise.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. For those that don't know me, I'm Jeremy, consultant in the Canberra region. Also, it must be coming up on a year that I've been a consultant because I had a memory this morning of the picture I took at the demo that got me over the line to come and join. So it was a nice memory that popped up. Love being a consultant for those of you that have actually ever considered it. I've learned so much about cooking from it, but also the networks you build with both the team members around Canberra, around Australia, but then also new owners as well. Always really great to meet new people. So for me, I was going to talk about sourdough. So I suppose over the last few years, gut health has definitely been a little bit more prominent in our house. Definitely not the 20-year-old I used to be. Can't just eat whatever I want. Really need to take care of my body. And I came across the mother sourdough starter recipe in Cookie Dough a few months ago and thought I'd give it a go. So this is it at the moment. It's just after I baked a loaf of bread today. So it used the fermentation process. I did go down a rabbit hole seeing what else I could ferment, and I did find someone did have a recipe for beer on the recipe community. Haven't tried it yet, so I can't report back on that. But here's a loaf of the sourdough I made this afternoon. So I just followed the recipe straight out of Cookie Dough. So it's pretty straightforward. It is over 4 days. So the only thing I had done was write down each of the steps that I'd need to do for AM and PM, put them in the family calendar so I'd remember to do it, because otherwise then you have to go back in and find where you're up to. And because I'm using the Thermomix so much, I can't just go back into the recipe. I've already probably made 3 things in the time. So over those 4 days, made the initial sourdough starter. I think a lot of people are a bit scared about trying to keep it going. For me, it's super simple. I make the starter. I've got the starter and I've always got the base. I'll probably do another loaf of bread or something with it tomorrow. And then whatever's left, I'll put into a different jar and just put into the fridge. So you can keep it in the fridge for up to a week. And then once I'm ready, I'll grab it back out, put it back in the big jar and feed it. And then you can use it within kind of 4 to 6 hours. So you don't need to plan too far ahead. You don't need to be scared about it. It's super simple once you get going and once you get in a bit of a rhythm with it. So I'd recommend giving it a go. And then, so the other thing I'm going to make tonight is the choc chip cookies from the sourdough discard. So before you feed it, if it is on your bench, you discard some of the sourdough starter and then feed it and then let it ferment again. So the idea of having less waste would be to use that discard to make other things. So tonight it is the sourdough discard choc chip cookies.
Jeremy, I have a question. If
Yes.
you go to recently cooked, does it give you the option to pick up where you left off? Because that could be, I think it is, but I'm like second guessing myself because I'm not in front of my Thermomix. But if you had that sourdough starter recipe there and you recently cooked and you went in, I'm pretty sure it starts you where you left off. You can either restart or continue.
Once you do it 2 or 3 times, though, you know exactly what it's going to do. It sets it to 37 degrees until it hits that temperature. I put the jar straight in because it's quite heavy. I don't put it on top. Put the jar straight in, weigh the rye flour into it, and then heat the water up. So I just do it manually now anyway.
Yeah, awesome.
So this recipe is not in metric, but that's okay. The only one I ever have to convert is the Fahrenheit to Celsius. Everything else, it just does it for you. So I won't actually bake them tonight. I'll just go through how to make them, and I'll show you a finished product I made last night. So 8 ounces of unsalted butter. Um, 3.5 ounces of sugar. 6 ounces of dark brown sugar. This one, I'd normally cut back on the sugar a little bit. I haven't tonight just because I have a plan for this recipe.
As in it's going to someone else?
Yes, there's a function on in the next couple of days, so it's probably going there. If it was at home, I'd almost half sugar. I figure it's
Well, they're definitely popular. There's 4.8 stars and 302 ratings. That's pretty big.
just for mixing for 30 seconds. Not sure if you can still hear me at all. Oh, perfect. Haven't quite.
Only if you're
30
looking at the
seconds.
screen.
30 seconds takes forever when you're sitting here waiting for it.
It does. Oh my goodness.
It's fine when you're jumping in between doing other things.
So, Jeremy, if people don't want the sugar at all, what would you sub in?
I haven't tried this one without sugar. I've cut it back last time I made it for the kids and they didn't complain. So I'm worried if they try this one now, they'll expect that every time.
Yeah, yes, don't give them any. Anna will know. When Anna jumps on, she can share what she would put in if she was to make biscuits sugar-free.
So that's the sugar, butter, and more sugar mix. Next step's to add the discard sourdough starter. So this is the one from this afternoon. These spatulas off the mix shop I found are the best, especially with the big jar. You can get in and stir it all properly.
I reckon the TM7 spatula might be pretty good for that.
When using either the sourdough starter or the discard, recommend wiping the utensils down with some paper towel before you try and wash them, just so that doesn't get stuck in the dishwasher because it does almost set like concrete. 1 egg. A teaspoon of vanilla.
Jeremy, didn't at the last class, did you make the brown sugar
I did, yes.
in the pantry staples?
Yes, some of that brown sugar was made. Some was still left over from bought brown sugar. But now I've got the molasses. I don't think I'll be buying any again.
Yeah, amazing. So much cheaper too, making your own brown sugar. And so have you tasted the biscuits, the ones you made?
What was that? Sorry.
Do you make these biscuits all the time?
I do. Just because when you're pouring off or discarding some of the sourdough, I just don't like to chuck it in the bin. So I like to try and do something useful with it. So this, I've tried the crumpets before, the sourdough discard crumpets. They were quite good.
And so I'm curious, what is the flavor difference using sourdough discard or as to making just plain basic choc chip biscuits?
I think with the amount of sugar in these, you don't even notice. You can taste a tiny bit, I suppose, almost that sour taste, but not enough to make a difference. But also you feel like you can eat more because they're good for you, right?
Yeah, the sugar doesn't cancel it out at all.
No. So that's got the baking soda and salt. Last night when I made these, I didn't have enough chopped chips, and I've just realized I normally try and pre-weigh everything, and I haven't tonight. So I have to weigh the chopped chips straight in. But so these are the versions I made last night, but I did actually use some white chocolate chip in there as well. My wife prefers white chocolate over milk chocolate, so that worked quite well. So I'd recommend experimenting with things like that as well, just depending on your taste. It's quite thick dough at the moment. I think next step, we just add the chopped chips in. Almost perfect. This is a really thick mixture, so it does stir for 15 seconds just to stir all the chopped chips through.
I'm just going to show everyone, if you decide to jump on board and start making sourdough, and you have lots of discard, and I'm the same with Jeremy, I didn't like the waste, just type sourdough discard into the search bar of your cookie dough, and it will come up with the recipes that you can try with the discard. There you go. And there's the ones that Jeremy's making, the cookies and the crackers that was recommended in the chat.
So all finished. So just roll them into a bowl, tablespoon size, and on a baking mat, slightly flatten. And I think they're in the oven at about 160 degrees for 12 to 14 minutes. I think I like my cookies almost Subway style, a little bit not too crunchy, nice and soft. So I baked these for about 15 minutes last night. They're still quite soft.
Awesome. Love it. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Really appreciate you sharing with us. And I love that you've just grabbed a cookie dough recipe, gone for it, and it's worked out. And
I did the same with the sourdough bread as well. That was just straight off cookie dough. I haven't adjusted it at all. And it works quite well. The family seem to enjoy it. Trying to make that into more of a loaf so we can use it for sandwiches and things like that for school, rather than just almost eating all of it as soon as it's made.
yeah, awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And over to you, Anna.
Guys, I'm Anna Kelly. I've been a consultant for, I think it's nearly 4 years now. Gut health is definitely one of my favorite topics. I probably like when I first had kids and I had their issues with eczema and asthma and all those different health problems that we now know are linked with gut health, was kind of where it all started. And then I got diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. And for anyone who knows someone with an autoimmune, probably everybody, there is a really strong link to gut health as well. So for me, I changed my diet considerably, and it's been really like life-changing. So everything I eat is focused around making sure it's healthy for my gut. So don't worry, it doesn't have to be complicated. I'm doing a really super simple recipe. It's called the apple and almond overnight oats, and it's from the Louise Keats Gut Health Collection. And no, there's no fancy fermentation or anything like that. It's just simply a bunch of foods that are full of fiber. And essentially what we want when we are looking after our gut microbiome is to feed it lots and lots of plants. So I don't know if you guys have heard about Tim Spector. He's amazing. He's really into gut health. And he, based on this study, what was that? I wrote it down over here. It was called the American Gut Project. And so there was, I think, 10,000 participants in this research study. And they worked out that if the people that had over 30 plants a week ended up with a really diverse microbiome. And a diversity in your microbiome is what is going to make you healthy, have a good immune system. It's going to affect your brain health and your heart health, so your mood and everything. So if you can, you want to try and get in 30 plants a week, which sounds like a lot. But this very simple recipe alone, say instead of having porridge in the morning, has got oats, apple, almonds, chia seed, and a couple of types of berries. So that alone is like 7. And that's just one breakfast. So even things like Indian cooking, where you're using heaps of different spices, that will tick off, another 10 or so. So yeah, I don't actually count, but I'm constantly aware of, making sure I have a diverse range of plants in my meals. Okay, so to start these ones off, you add 80 grams of almonds. It does say dry roasted or activated. I haven't activated mine because I wasn't organized. But if you do want to activate them, it's just a case of soaking them for about 12 hours. And that starts that germination process, and it's better for absorption, and it is easier for you to digest as well. So I'm adding those almonds and milling those up. Okay, so then I'm adding 1 apple core. And of course, we're using all these whole foods. And that's the idea, is you want to make sure the plants that you are eating are whole foods, not refined. Yeah, as soon as they're refined, it loses its fiber content. And the fiber is what's going to feed your gut bugs. So this is rolled oats. If possible, get organic. Don't use the quick oats. You want them to be as unprocessed as possible. There's 100 grams of oats and then 40 grams of chia seeds. These are a massive superfood.
Anna, do you normally do oats?
No, me personally, this is for my kids. For me, I would make this more of a, like I'd add more nuts, maybe some sunflower seeds, flax seeds instead of the oats. Yeah, but kind of like I make this cranberry toasted cereal weekly, and instead of the oats, I use almonds, and I just substitute it 1 for 1. And then it's also higher in nutrients and higher in protein, which I like to eat high protein as well. Then we're adding 550 grams of milk of choice. So I'm just using some bonsai here. My pickings in Singapore are slim. Okay, the whole thing.
You can actually make your own soy milk too, if anyone's ever been keen to
Good
try.
And then 1 tablespoon of, it says maple syrup. Again, I can't afford that over here. So I'm just using some honey. We were discussing earlier what you could use instead of sugar. Obviously, sugar is a bit of a gut disruptor. So you do want to limit the amount of sugar you have. So things like dates, someone mentioned monk fruit sweetener. Yeah, I keep it pretty simple. It's generally either honey or dates. And then obviously fruits, like the natural sweetness in fruits is great as well.
I use rice malt syrup too, it doesn't have the fructose in it.
Yeah, true. At the end of the day, it's just, they're all sugars in themselves. It's just about reducing them. So if it's a recipe that says, 100 grams of sugar, I will halve it to 50 grams, and it's often very much sweet enough. Okay, and then it says a pinch of salt. Sorry, too busy chatting. It's meant to be quick. And now I'm just mixing that together. Okay, so that's pretty much it done. It does say to set it aside for 10 minutes. That's just to allow it all to soak together. If I poured it straight into these cups, which I've got here, it might be a little bit uneven. One will have more liquid than another. So I'm just going to let it sit for a bit and then pour it into these jars. And then it goes in the fridge. And then, of course, you've got a breakfast ready to go in the morning that isn't just, you know, your quick cereal, which is got no fiber or no nutrients and things like that. And of course, berries at the end, but we don't have to do that yet. That'll be tomorrow.
Awesome. All right. Well, who am I coming back to now? Thank you, Anna. Appreciate your health knowledge and sharing that with us, and your journey as well, your health journey. So yeah, Anna's pretty hardcore when it comes to what she puts in her body. So feel free to reach out to her. We'll share the links to all the social handles of the presenters tonight. And we're all more than happy to share some tips with you guys. So Sally, am I coming back to you?
Yes, because I'm at the stage when I'm actually going to need this with the next step. Okay, so just see where can we see? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so the next stage is I'll just pop into the bowl. I've used a glass bowl so it's easy for everyone to see what's going on. So again, recipes, again, my family have grown up incorporating these kind of what I call functional healing foods. Again, due to allergies and intolerances, it just sort of led our family down this path. A lot of the recipes are on Cookie Do as well, just like that Louise keeps. There's some amazing recipes there. There's also, I do think the Noni Jenkins one, because they're basically, the collection also has recipes with much less sugars or different types of sweeteners than we regularly use. And it's all about that, basically what I call our gut commensal bacteria over time and the way that we live our faster lives. We've lost the knack of, we've lost the range that we used to have. So now what we're kind of doing with these foods is building back in the range of diversity in the gut as well. So this is the stage where it can take up to 5 minutes of kneading. It says use gloved hands in your own home. I believe that, you know, if you're a family, then just use your hands, because you're using, again, when you think about it, the whole environment is part of what goes into your food in the end as well. So I'm just squeezing the juice. Now I find different cabbage types, different age of the cabbages. We don't know sometimes if we buy from a store how long they have been there, but different cabbage types will take different times to knead the juices. Sometimes it's saying another 5 minutes approximately, which is why I thought with Claire I could just step in and do this and then we can go to another presenter. But I can see now that the juices are coming. You can also use a pounder or a meat mallet, it says. I've got a pounder, but I prefer this way to just extract the last bits of juices to come out. And so I'll do this for a couple more minutes and then I'll add the spices of choice. They're suggesting cloves, caraway and juniper berries. It's completely a choice of what you want to add in. You don't have to add anything if you don't want to. Again, this could have been mixed with some beetroot, raw beetroot in here as well, or carrot. So I'll just do this for a couple more minutes, Claire, if there's anyone else who's got a step to do, and then I'll show the last jar, popping it into the jars and that sort of thing as well.
Anna, did you want to show us anything, or you just... No? It's like, no, remove. Louise, how's yours going?
Mine's good. We're up to putting in the milled cashews that we milled right at the beginning.
Oh, excellent. All right, let
I'll
me
put that in.
spotlight you. There you go.
So that all goes in. We'll just push it down a little. And then next we've got 50 grams of lemon juice. And salt and pepper. Oh, it says salt here, and then it'll say pepper, ground black pepper. So put that in. Doesn't really need a lot of salt. And put this back on. And it's got 30 seconds, and then it'll be finished. It's just blending it now for 30 seconds.
I love Sally's stainless steel benches. That is how you get a very clean kitchen.
Oh. Okay, you can see the great colour we've got. I'll pour it out.
That looks amazing, Louise.
You
So
see
vibrant. We can
Yep.
see that just.
On the white plate.
Don't tip it too far.
I'll do it high up so you can see. But yeah, it is really lovely. And now the recipe says to top it with apples, and kefir milk, which I bought this morning. You can also buy a non-dairy one. This you can buy a coconut one. This is the dairy one. It's a probiotic, but it's heat sensitive, so you have to add it at the end. And it says a drizzle of olive oil and watercress. So it makes it look pretty fancy when you put it all on, like you've been to a restaurant. But I can't really show you. Let's see if I can really. No. There we go. There, that's pretty, really bad photography, but anyway, the colour's great.
Not quite the picture, but you know, it's still got all of the goodness in it.
Yeah, it's got lots of goodness. Yeah. Okay.
Amazing.
So-
So is your family excited now to be getting that?
Oh, yes. No, this is going to be my lunch for the next few days. I'm going to put the bone broth on just so you can see, but you can come back to me later if you like.
That's okay. Sally, where are you up to?
Yeah.
I can leave you on, Louise, if you want to just.
Okay, I'll just fluff a bit with it.
Yeah, you do that and Sally can jump in.
So yes, I've got a little bit more resting time, but to be honest, I kind of move it through anyway. I can see the juices have been extracted now, so it's just a case of adding in the spices. I'm guesstimating because it does have measurements as well, but I'm just going to sort of pop in a few of the juniper berries and a little bit of caraway. I'm missing the cloves out. I'm just not a fan of cloves, so I won't put those in. Again, there's different other ones you can use, mustard seeds, different dill, different types. That just helps with preserving. Just give that a mix. I'll just let that sit for there. So really the next step is I'm just going to put that in the jars and show you how I do that, because that's an important step. How's Louise going? Shall I keep going, or do you want to do your...
Louise, you're still on mute.
I'm just up to putting the whole black peppercorns in. And we've got, it says 6 to 8 chicken wings. So you put them in whole, skin it all. I just like to use the whole packet because, you know, you don't want to waste any. And then we put 900 mils of filtered water. Okay, then it cooks for an hour. You don't have to use the bone broth in that recipe. You could also use chicken stock or make a chicken stock with or even a vegetable stock would be fine. But it is nice, tastes lovely. So it cooks for an hour, then you'll add more water, then you cook it for another hour, another half hour, then you strain it, and that's your bone broth, and it's really lovely.
Amazing.
Okay?
Thank you so much, Louise. Really appreciate you sharing.
That's fine.
I'll take you off so you don't have to hang out and wash up.
That's one of our go-to recipes here as well. I think it's super simple, and the fact that you can use those chicken wings, it just makes life so much easier. And then it's just a go-to, and you can either sort of use it as you do in the recipes, or sometimes you can freeze them in little sort of like muffin cases and then come back to use it as you need as well. But having those fresh batches of stock going are really good for gut health too. So I'm going to show you the messy bit, which is the jarring it, to show you these tips and tricks with that as well. So that's why I've popped my camera closer to my sink, basically, because I have everything kind of ready to go. So I've got the jars. I'm going to be filling jars that are basically going to fit in the Varoma today. Other recipes, of course, you can sometimes not skip the fermentation mode, and you might use a crock. I've got a crock as well for larger quantities of cabbage, and the fermentation crock looks like so. But this recipe basically is using jars for the Varoma. So again, I'm going to now, I've got a muddler, so the idea is that we need to push the cabbage into the jars so that there's no air pockets, because that will also help with the fermentation process. So I'm just going to pop that in. This does take a bit of time. Sometimes I just get cabbage everywhere and do it quite messily and then tidy up around, but I'm just going to try and do it quite neatly for the moment.
So Sally, what would the difference be if we did use a fermentation crock as opposed to just jars?
Yeah, there's not really much difference at all. You will still use weights, because what we're going to be doing is plugging and holding the cabbage down into these jars. The same with a crock. It's exactly the same. We're just using really fermentation mode to kickstart the ferment. It's kind of going to keep it in an incubator, which basically will help start that fermentation process. The recipe actually does say that you then keep it in a sort of a insulated place for another 48 hours, or until you decide it's right. Now, when you first start with ferments, that tangy taste is what you're looking for, but sometimes some sauerkrauts will actually be used and fermented for much longer, like maybe even, let's put this up a little bit so you can see me, maybe even as long as 4 weeks plus. My go-to is about 7 days, and the same with a crock. I would just leave it for 7 days and then come back to it to have a look. So the idea what I'm doing now, I've always got to leave a space at the top of the jar because it does expand. So I'm just going to push the cabbage down, and really what I'm trying to do is make sure the juice is submerged with the cabbage underneath. Sometimes I tweak a little bit as I go to get them even. So I'm just going to push this one down as well. So
You definitely make it look easy.
And I often find there's a little bit of juice left in the end, which I'll just put on top. Like so. Let's give it one more time. Now the next stage is to plug, which you can use. I'm going to use the cabbage leaf that we took off at the beginning, but otherwise you can sometimes get little glass weights. I've got that many ferments in my fridge, all the weights have been used up, so I don't have any spare, or you can just use something like a ceramic, something to hold it down. But what I'm going to show you is how I do it, is I grab like a little piece of cabbage. Actually, that's got a split in it, I'll be a bit fussy. And then I'll show you when I've done it, but I'm just going to sort of wrap this around like so. So what it's doing, it's basically keeping the cabbage weighted down like so. Just do the same. This one.
And so, Sally, what will happen if it doesn't, if you're not putting it underneath the liquid?
You'll find you'll get, it'll either kind of dry out, and you may get sort of that sort of little bit of white on top because it's oxidized. The oxidation is fine. You can just scrape that off. It's when you can smell, if you know it's gone, if it's got that sort of contamination with other bacteria in it, it will definitely have a different texture, or it will look wrong and smell wrong. So,
and taste wrong, I'm guessing.
And strong, yeah, well, yes, strong. So that is kind of like a perfect plug, like so. Yeah. I'll just get my tea towel, because what I also like to do is just then clean, you know, just those excess little bits around like so. And again, similar with kimchi, that's another recipe on Cookie Do, which is absolutely fantastic and very much Korean based, that rather than the Korean spice, we use I think it's chili and turmeric or something to mimic, but comes out really well. So that's another one to try as well. So the next step is popping into our varoma, which is really like our incubator. So the idea now is, in this recipe, is to just lightly put the lids on. We're not tightly leaving them on for this fermentation, just lightly popping them on. The next step, you would seal it, but at the moment the instructions are to have it lightly on. And I'll just get the water. So for the fermentation mode, we have some water in the bowl, because this is going to ferment over 12 hours. And always with the fermentation, you just want some absorbic acid, because it just prevents, not that I've ever seen it happen, but it's a prevention of the rust on the blades. That's how it's sort of described. It's just that acidic, because that's going around as well.
And so that could be your lemon or your vinegar, correct?
Yeah, yes, it could. Yeah, absolutely. So that's on top. And then we've got our jars, which fit lovely. So always check your jars if you're following this recipe that they're going to fit. And that's going to go for 12 hours. It's 160 Fahrenheit, which really is somewhere between, what we want is a incubator. The water will heat up, but the actual incubation temperature here will be between 18 and 22. So it's controlling the temperature and it's controlling the humidity. So therefore you're going to get a success for the kickstart for the fermentation. And then tomorrow, as I mentioned, it's basically it says wrap it in a blanket to keep the heat, continue fermentation for another 2 days. To be honest, my secret is I use a plate. I pop the jars on a plate, pop it in a cupboard, because when you ferment, it's the it's the darkness that creates the lactobacillus bacteria. So that helps. Pop it in the dark and leave it there for a couple of days. Taste it. If it's tangy and you like it, if it's not, leave it another day. But you do need to keep a check on it, because the fermentation makes it expand, so you can burp the lids because you'll tighten them up tomorrow. And so just make sure that that all is sort of, you know, in control, and you'll hear a little pop sometimes, which just gets the gas from the ferment out. And then when it's ready, you store it in the fridge.
So what happens if we don't burp it?
You will probably get the liquid which seeps out of the lid and comes out, which is why I recommend putting it on a plate or on a sort of like a tray. Yes, it will just sort of overflow.
Okay, so it's not going to like explode in our cupboard.
No, some ferments, yes,
Okay.
like the kiffers or the shrubs.
Like
yes.
that beetroot dip
Yes.
that exploded all through my cupboard.
Oh my
What?
goodness. And that, so yes, it's not unusual, is it, actually? So yes, it's just those little tips to give it a go for sure. I love all the books. Quirky Joe's got some great recipes as well, but it's about just giving it a go, supporting your own gut health, and then, you know, you then kind of get attuned to it and know when you're needing it again. And they say actually that it's the gut bugs talking, because they're the ones that if you stop sort of having the fermented food, you'll start to crave them. So it's, you know, it's all of that as well. So it is quite interesting, the connection between our health and how how we go. So it's a great topic, and I hope that
And
you
the good
try
thing is
sauerkraut.
it's a journey, right? And it starts where you
Yes.
are right now. So everyone's on a different health journey. And so hopefully some of these things tonight, you can see that it's possible for you to just get started and just try one little thing here and there and adapt and evolve your diet and how you eat and what you put into your body over time. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's one that's been fermenting. I've prepared earlier, and I'm just going to give it a little taste. So you want it to have a tang, and that has got a tang. Yeah. So again, you can use there's a few recipes too. Hunter's stew. It's one on the
So I'm curious about that one, Sally. If you use the sauerkraut in the hunter's stew, does it take away the microbial properties?
Yeah, I'm interested about that too. I don't know actually that answer, to be sure. But I sort of say just have it as a condiment a little bit, just get used to it. Even if you've got a really compromised health or gut, just a little teaspoon of the juice will help, or a small drop. Yeah, it's quite powerful.
And if you do have a compromised gut, you don't want to go in too hard to.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. You want to start slow and easy, for sure. Yeah.
So for anyone who's curious about, I know has anyone here pre-ordered a TM7? Because they're coming in June. But if anyone is interested in coming on board and earning one, we'll have a new earn program ready to share with you next week. For TM6, we are off, it's our last month to do demos with you guys and help you learn how to use your TM6 to its full potential. Obviously, as consultants, we'll still be here to support you with that, but from the sense of doing demos with you and your friends, your last chance to get those demos in with the 6. So if you have one and you want to learn how to use it a little bit more in a demo with your friends, please talk to your consultant and get them to come over and do that before the 4th of June, because that's going to, 3rd is going to be the last day for us to be able to have TM6s in demos. cooking classes. From June, we're going to be having TM7s. And so, yeah, we just encourage you to lean in now and get the most from it. But obviously, all Thermomix cooking is Thermomix cooking. It doesn't matter which model you have. When we do these classes, we will, from next month, be demonstrating in the 7s. However, it will all be relevant. And most of the things that we do, you will be able to do in your 6s or your 5s or your 31s. So just want to reassure you that it is you are still going to have that amazing support from us. Our machines just might look a little bit different on our kitchen benches. All right. We've also got Trade Up. Who wants to talk about Trade Up? Just for anyone who is interested, if they've got a 31 or a 5. Anna.
So if you have Thermomix, in fact, everyone here would have a Thermomix. So if you have a TM5 or a TM31, you can upgrade to the 6 and you will save, is it 699?
680, I think.
80 on the full price of the TM6, but on top of that, you are also going to get nearly $800. I don't know the exact numbers, worth of freebies. So that's the glider board, the cutter, blade cover, and
Bowl blade lid.
bowl. Yeah, the second bowl. Is that it? That's the 4 things. Anyway, and the spiralizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an incredible deal. They obviously have a lot of stock for the TM6 that they are trying to sell off, and so that is going to benefit anyone who wants to upgrade to the TM6. So jump in now if you want these savings, because they will not stick around.
Yep, so just that is an upgrade to the 6, not the 7, just so you know. But yeah, if you want a 7 and you want to earn it, let us know, because we absolutely are looking for more consultants in all of our regions. And I know a lot of you guys are not just in New South Wales and ACT where we are. You're all across Australia and New Zealand. But, you know, our whole company is, we're just at that verge of going boom into our communities, and we need the help to get there. So
we do a photo with all of our finished.
Yeah, let's do it. Louise, how are you going to go at lifting up your soup there?
I will. Yeah.
I'm just going to.
All
right, you ready?
I'm ready.
And if you're on camera, smile.
Oh, can you see?
Can see. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, everyone. All right, we'll send you the wrap-up email. There was just one question we didn't answer in the chat. Sally, if you're using the crock, the fermentation pot, how do you heat it up?
Okay, I will explain a little bit more. This one isn't heated up. In fact, most of the fermentations don't actually use the fermentation mode either. That just kickstart it, but you do need it to have a constant temperature. So basically it's just about finding a space in your home that's going to be within that window of 17 to 22 degrees. Sometimes in the winter, I have been known to do sort of like fermentation of coconut yogurt before I had the TM6, the fermentation mode, and I'd have like a little insulated blanket around it, you know, so that's possible as well. But it's just sort of a standalone. It's a slightly different way to the way we're doing this recipe. This is just super easy and super quick and almost, I think, a guaranteed success. The other one to know is that this is like a moat. That's where the water goes after your cabbage is in here, and then it's weighed down with the weights, which look like this, just something heavy. Then the water goes around the moat, and then that goes on top, because that's then a seal, and that would sit there then for the fermentation length. These you can get on the mix shop, I believe. I don't know if they're still in stock. Haven't checked today. Yeah, so there's another way to do, especially if you're doing a big bulk, you know, couple, 2 or 3 cabbages, whereas today it was literally a cabbage. So I hope that helps. Just keep it nice and cozy somewhere.
Beautiful. Thank you for that explanation, and thank you guys for joining us tonight. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.